Today, you're going to see how you can debug your app with a single tap. But first, I want to share with you how a day of my life as an iOS developer looks like. Our app at Healthy.io enables people to perform a urine test at home. For example, the app you can see now, Kidney Check, enables people to perform a kidney test straight from the comfort of their home. In the beginning of the app, our lovely nurse Emily gives instructions to the user to know what he needs to do to perform the test. When the instructions are being done, then it's time to perform the test. As you can see, the user uses the camera to scan the test and then is being transferred to the processing screen. In the processing screen, we're verifying that we have everything that we need, that we succeeded to collect everything, the scan was correct, and that we are able to provide results to that user. When we finalize and we get the results, we notify the user the results are ready, and he can review them in the results screen. Our product came to me one day and requested a new feature. He wanted that the text below the "What's next" line that you see here will give a bit more information about the results that the user received. What does it mean? It means that if we got a normal, then the user will know exactly what it means and what the following steps that he needs to do. This is not a problem, so of course I did it quite quickly, and now it's time to actually see that what I did is correct. You saw that the user needed to do a lot of steps to reach this specific screen. Unfortunately, this is what I needed to do as well. On my first take, I had a problem with my scanning and with my test, and I received an algorithm error. I couldn't continue on, and I needed to start all over again. After some takes, on take number 5, I wanted to start the app, but unfortunately, I received a connectivity issue. That means that the server was down. Apparently, they're doing some maintenance in our testing environment, and I couldn't continue. Then I needed to start all over again. Unfortunately, this happened to me quite a lot. Hi, I'm Yuval. I'm an iOS developer at Healthy.io. I have a bachelor's degree in computer and cognitive science, and I lived in Amsterdam for 2 years and in Israel as an Israeli delegate of the Jewish Agency, and I fell in love with gyrotonic. If you don't know what it is, you should look it up. But really, I love baking, but in the beginning, I was not that good. I thought that I could follow the steps correctly. You know, putting some flour, some baking powder, whisking some eggs. But one time, just before putting the cake into the oven, I realized that instead of half a cup of sugar, I put half a cup of salt. Turn off the oven, there is no cake, and of course, I needed to start all over again. This experience reminded me of the same experience that I have while testing my app. Every time that I needed to start my app from the beginning, it was because of that salt in my cake. You probably can think to yourself, okay, what is really the problem? It is your code. You can change it locally. You can do some comments or delete the code and skip all the first screen to reach the results screen, what we needed to go to. You can think of it as like going to the supermarket and buying a prepared mixed cake. You skip the first steps, you whisk it up and put it to the oven. But I'm here to tell you why this is not a good enough solution for us. First of all, there is a risk of reaching production. With one moment that you don't look or you lost your concentration, the code will be committed and reach live users, and they will have the same shortcut that you just did for yourself. Not every flow or scenario is easy to create. It can be really hard to simulate that specific scenario. And once you did it, it's really hard to maintain it. Where do you keep the code? This code is relevant only for that specific time. Tomorrow your code is changed and you need to change it as well. It doesn't really simulate a real flow. You know, when you're buying a prepared cake mix, it doesn't really taste like a homemade cake. The changes are being done only locally on your computer. What about your teammates? Maybe your QA can use it as well. It doesn't really scale. And of course, it takes a lot of time. From a feature that took only half an hour, I can spend double or triple of the time trying to reach this screen in a shortcut. So we saw that it's risky, it's complicated, it's not real. The changes are being done only locally, and it can take a lot of time. This is a lot of effort. Probably there is a better way that we can do it. And I'm here to tell you that there is. We, with a single tab, can reach every flow or scenario within our app. And we're doing it using our debug screen. So here is our debug screen. You can see live how with a single tab, I can reach the same screen that I wanted to reach before, but this time I don't need to go through the full flow. I don't depend on the server, not the algorithm, just on the clicks that I do with my finger. So let's see what it is. So this is our debug screen. Each row represents a different flow or scenario within our app. It is important for me to tell you now that this is available only when I compile my app on debug environment, meaning when I deploy this app to the store and reach actual users, they will never have this access to this screen. So okay, we know that we need to have the flows or the scenarios, and we wanted to keep the responsibility away, the responsibility separated from the view and what keeps the logic. Meaning that my representing view will concentrate only on navigation and representing the screens and the scenarios that I need to present right now. So okay, I need to have sort of a data source, but what it will contain. I know how to initialize any flow or any scenario in my app, but it can look very messy and it will be really hard to maintain. And every scenario can be a bit different. And then, okay, my view will need to know everything. It sounds really complicated, and it brings us back to the same problems that we saw before. We thought, okay, we need to approach it a bit differently. So we created a debug item provider, which contains different items. An item is an abstraction, a wrapper above the object that I want now to present. This allows me to separate the logic between the representing view. So let's see what it is. So this is our debug item. This is the wrapper. You can see it's a very simple struct that has only two parameters, a title and the action. The action is really the heart of the item. This is what defines the item and it defines which object it's wrapping. Each item can confirm only one case, meaning that if I have now a result item, it will be able to confirm only one specific case. So our action is a function that actually creates that specific object that I want now to present. You can pass here some dependencies. It all depends on your implementation. This is possible only because we succeeded to separate our full flow to small sections or mini flows, and I can detach them from the main flow, meaning that if I want now to reach a section of the flow in the end of the flow, I don't really have to go through the full flow to initiate it. I can just take this section and play around with it and initiate it whenever and wherever I want. It required a bit of refactoring in our code, but it was worth it. So let's focus a bit what is a case. As I said, a case defines the item. The case makes a difference between the different flows and scenarios within our app. This is also a contract between the item and the representing view. Me as a representing view, if I have now an item with that specific case, I know when I'm running the action that the returning value that I will receive will coordinating with the case type, which means that I will be promised to receive that specific object that I need to show now. For example, we saw in the beginning that we have a lot of screens. A screen in iOS equivalent to a UI view controller. So of course we need a case that will represent this type of scenario or this type of flow. So we have a VC type that when running the action, it will return a UI view controller. You can see here also that I didn't write a results view controller or processing view controller. We are returning a UI view controller, a general thing. Because for me as a representing view, I don't really care which UI view controller I'm now presenting. I just care that I'm presenting a UI view controller, and I know now what I need to do with it. There are more cases that you create depending on your app, and later on we will see a really cool case that we added to our flow. So now that we know the definition of an item, let's take a closer look on an example implementation. So we will we will focus on the results screen. Okay, you can see here that we have 4 different items. Each item is coordinated with a value, a specific value of the results. This is possible to do because we were using a dependencies injection. The results screen is not responsible on getting the results itself, but he is relying on the object that creates this results screen to give him the results that he now needs to present. This allows us the flexibility and the way that we can simulate any scenario that we want. So let's take a closer look on the implementation of the negative item. So as you can see here, we have an array of result items. I will show you now just the negative one. We said that the action is the heart and the result screen is a UI view controller. So of course I'm using the VC type case, and as you can see in the end of the function I am returning a view controller. I wanted it to be negative results. So first I create a mock exam results and then I inject it to my results view controller. Now all the logic is being done, and when I am the representing view receiving this item and running the action, I do not need to know all the small detail, all the specific logic details that connected me to that specific object. I will just get back the UI view controller and I will know how to present it. This is really cool. Already now we have a really cool tool that allows us to navigate through the app quite easily. But in real life, we are depending a lot of the times on dynamic data, and mostly it's received by the server. We were thinking, okay, maybe we can do something cool and incorporate the network to our debug screen. This is when our async item was created. So as you can see here, I didn't need to define again what is an item. I didn't need to change anything about my wrapper. I just needed to add a new case to my action. What does it mean? It means that I can save the structure of our debug screen. I don't need to change much. I just need to add a new case, and that the representative view will know this specific case and what to do with it. I'm passing a network handler. So in the action, this will be used to perform the network call. And I'm also giving a callback, what to do when the network call was done. But you can see here, opposite to what we saw before, that it looks like we're not really fulfilling our contract. As I said before, our contract was that when I'm running this specific case, I know exactly which type I'm getting in return when running the action. But here, as you can see, there is no match. But let me assure you, the contract is being fulfilled, but just in a different way. Because this is a network call, we cannot really promise that this item will be created. The network call can fail for many reasons, and then we don't have an item. This is why we're going to receive that specific item through the callback. In case of a successful network call, if I succeeded to receive the data that I need and created the object that I want now to return, I will send it back, as you can see here, on the result in case of a success. I will return a UI view controller. Otherwise, I will return an error. Why this is important? Because this time the user is me. And for me, it's really important to know why exactly this network call didn't succeed. Now it's a piece of cake, right? Not only that it helped us, the developers, but it helped also other domains in our team. Our product, QA, and our designer are using this tool on a daily basis, and it makes their life even better. So we saw that we have the debug screen that really took a lot of the effort of the testing and debugging our app, and now we can navigate through our app very easily and quickly with just a single tab. Now it is time for you to debug your app with a single tap. Thank you very much for listening. You can reach me on LinkedIn or by email. Feel free to ask me any questions and of course give me some suggestions to my debug screen. Thank you and good night.